Ever wondered how e-commerce application track your delivery from your application? Well, in this video, we would cover that and many more. We'll be making use of a free map API from Mapbox, which we are going to use to track our order. We'll also be building the UI for the order listing and the profile section. So this is going to be the last video in the mobile development course. So if you just stumbled on this video and want to build something like this, you can check out the playlist. It's going to be in the description. And for the rest of you who have made it so far, congratulations. And as promised, the next set of videos will go into building the admin dashboard. This is where you can control everything in your application, ranging from adding products to the application and even confirming orders that were placed in the application. So if you've not subscribed, I would advise you subscribe to the channel so that you'll be notified whenever I post this video. So without wasting any much of your time, let's start coding. Before we start building our UI, let's add the required libraries. So we go into our pubspec.yaml, and under here we'll place some of the required libraries. Next, we'll have to configure the geolocator to work on both Android and iOS. On Android, we go to our Android folder, and within the Android manifest, just before the application, we request some of the required permissions. The permissions we'll be using in the Android is the access file location and the CRUS location. Next, we go into our iOS folder. This is where we'll add the setup for our iOS application. That is if you are building this application for iOS users. Within our iOS runner folder, we go into the info.plist, and under the last permission, we add this line here. This requests the location permission on an iOS device. So after both of this configuration, we need to run our application so that all of these changes are going to take effect. So once our application starts running, we'll go into the order section to build the UI for the orders. So within the scaffold, we add the background color and the app bar. First, material transparency is set to true so that the application bar is going to be transparent. Since we'll be having a list of orders on this page, I'll place some data which we are going to use to build our UI. At the end of this video, we'll be replacing this data with our data from Firebase. The link to the file containing this code is going to be in the description. But if you want to type them out, I will scroll through this video once so that you can look at them and type the information manually. Let's go back to the UI and build the widgets. Within the body, we'll have a list view which is going to hold all our orders. I'll put a red container so that we can see the list of the items on the page. Then the separator builder is the space between each item on the list. The item count is going to be the length of all the orders. Let's create a widget to hold each of our order items, and we're going to call this the order item widget. And let this widget take in our order model. We can now go back to our order screen and replace each of these containers with our order item widget. We can go back to our order item widget and start building the widget for listing our orders. The first thing we'll work on is the dotted border. This is going to form a dotted line around the container. We'll add some styling into our dotted border using the options. Inside our order item widget, We'll use a row to place some items on the left and some other items on the right. Within the row, we'll have a column which is going to hold the items on the left. So we'll place the restaurant name, and after that we'll have the order ID. Next we'll have the total amount. Since we don't have the total amount as a variable in the order, we will need to modify the order model to calculate the total amount. So we go into the order model and create some extra variables. Before the constructor, let's create some functions that we're going to use in the UI. The subtotal is going to be the addition of the price of each of the other items. The total amount is going to be the sum of the subtotal and the delivery fee. The quantity is going to be the sum of all the item quantity. Then after this, let's work on the status color. This is going to be the color we'll use to depict each of the other status. Let's create a readable text which we will display to the user for each of these status. We can go back to the other item widget, and where we have the delivery fee, we can now replace it with the total amount, and we format it to 2 decimal places. Let's rearrange the column we'll be working with. Let's add some colors to the order ID and the total amount. After we're done with this column, we'll wrap it in an expanded widget so that it stretches to fill any available space. And after the expanded widget, we'll add our next column, which is the column that will stay on the right hand side of the screen. The first part of this second column will hold the order status. So we use the status text that we just created. And for the color, we use the status color. We also have a circle dot just before the text. So to do this, we'll wrap this text in a row and add a circle avatar. Let's add a space between the circle avatar and the text. And after this, we'll add the quantity. I'll just go back to the column at the top and copy these 2 text widgets and use them just below our row. For the total amount, we replace it with quantity, and for the order total, we replace it with our order quantity. And on this column, we'll use a cross-axis alignment of end to push all the items to the right hand side of the screen. The next thing we will do is to move from this our order page into the order details page. So we'll go to the top of the widget and wrap everything in an inkwell. So I will copy all the dotted border, and within our inkwell, we'll place it inside the child. In the untap function in the inkwell widget, we'll use a navigator to move to the order details screen. So I'll just save this first and go within our orders and create a new widget called order details screen. Inside this file, we'll create a stateless widget which is going to be called the order details screen. And this widget is going to require the order model. So once we've created this, we can go back to the order item widget and import the order details screen on this page. So once we click on the button now, we're taken to the order details screen, but we don't have anything on the screen. That is why it is black. So let's build the widgets on the screen. As usual, on the app bar, we'll set force material transparency to true so that it will be transparent. For our text, we'll be using the restaurant name, which we'll be getting from the order. We'll be using the list view in a body, so that the items in our order details screen will be able to scroll when we exceed the height of the screen. Let's create an orange container which is going to hold some of the information as we have in our UI. Within our container, we would have a column where we would add all the information we need. The first information is going to be our order status. The first widget we'll be working on is the status tracker. This widget is going to show the status of our order. Let's create a new widget for this because it's going to contain a lot of information and a lot of details. This widget is going to take the status of our order. Let's create a sized box with a fixed height. This is going to contain all our order status widgets. Let's make this text reusable by placing it in a function. To be able to change this active status based on the status of our delivery, let's assign integer values to each of the status. We can see this in action by going back and clicking on completed, and we see all of them are green. If we click on in delivery, we can see that 3 of them are green. So let's continue with our design. The next widget we'll be building is the line which shows the status of each of the items. To adjust the width of this container to fit the delivery status, we will wrap it in a layout builder. The layout builder gives us access to the width of the containing widget using the variable called constraints. We want our status index to be a fraction between 0 and 1, so we clamp it between 0 and 3 and divide it by 3. We will use this fraction to set the width of our container. Next, we use the align widget to push our widget to the left. After this, we'll also add a linear progress indicator to show our status. The last widget we'll need are the icons, which are going to be placed at the major sections of our status. Since we'll be having multiple instances of this widget, let's create a reusable widget from this container. we can take a look at the different states of these widgets by clicking on different items and seeing the way they are presented. Let's go back to our order details screen, and the next widget we'll be building is the delivery information widget. This is going to be a stateful widget because we're going to have our implementation of the map inside this widget, and it's going to take in the delivery information. Let's go back to our order detail and import this widget. Since this information is nullable, we'll check if the information is null before we show the widget. To work on this widget, we need to go into an order that has a delivery information, and the order that has the delivery information is the order that is in delivery. So click on this order. So let's go into the delivery information widget. In this widget, we'll have a container which is going to hold our map, and just below it another container that is going to hold the information concerning the rider bringing our delivery. To put a border around both of these widgets, we'll use the clip arrow rect. So within this container at the top, we'll create our map. But first, let's create an account for Mapbox. To use the Mapbox API, we'll go to mapbox.com, provide all the required information and create your account. After you've verified your account email, you'll be asked to verify your address. And once you input your address, you'll be taken into the console. On this console, you'll find your public token. This is going to be used for our map application. So you just copy this and place somewhere safe. Next, we'll go back to our application, and at the top of our delivery information widget, we add the required variables. The first is the user position. This is the current position of the user. Then we'll add route points. This is the path which the user takes from his position to the delivery position. Then we have is loading. This is used to show a loader while we get this position. And finally, we have the delivery position. This is the current position of the delivery, and it is gotten from the order information. This information are going to be added in from the dashboard, and this is the section we'll be moving on to on our next video, so don't forget to subscribe so you get notified. So after we set this information, we want to get the user location. So have a function called get user location, and we're going to create that function now. Under the build method, I'll add the function to get the user location. I'll just copy the code and paste it here. Then I'll explain what it does. First, we get the location permission. So it used the geolocator library which we imported at the start of this video to request the permission. After the permission is approved, the geolocator library gets the current position of the user. So this current position of the user is used to set the user position, which is the variable that we added at the top of the screen. And then we update the state of our widgets. Another function we'll be working on is the fetch route. This function will help us get the path from the user's current position to the position of the user's delivery. We'll use the URL from the Mapbox This URL is going to be in description, so you can just go down and copy it, and it takes in the longitude and latitude of the start position and the longitude and latitude of the end position. It also takes in our access token for Mapbox. I'll go into our secret keys folder. Here we'll create another variable for our Mapbox access token, and then we copy the value of our access token into this variable. Then we go back to our delivery information widget and import this variable. To save time, I'll just paste the code to get these directions. So what this code does is that it makes a call to the Mapbox API using this URL, and then once it gets a response, it collects the coordinates from the response as a list. Let's import the libraries which are required here. First, we need the .convert library, and then we need the HTTP library. Since we've gotten the user location and the path which it takes to get to the user's location, the only section left now is to draw the map. So we go under the delivery information widget and create a new stateless widget. This stateless widget is going to be called the Map Widget. The widget is going to take the route, the user position and the delivery position. The first setup we'll use is the options. This sets the initial position for our map and the zoom level for our map. For the initial center, I'll use the halfway point between the user position and the delivery position as the center of the map. And for our initial zoom setting, we'll use a zoom of 10. So within our map, we'll have the children, and the children should contain the tile. The tile is the widget which draws the map. So we'll use the URL for Mapbox. This will also be placed in the description, and we'll add our Mapbox access token. Since we've written the code to this point, let's go back to our build method and add our map so that we can see it display on the screen. Since the user position can be null, we'll use an if statement to check if it is null before we display the map widget. We don't want our map widget to show until our points in our route has been loaded. So at the top of the map widget, we'll also check if the variable is loading is true. If the user position is null, this means the position has not been requested or the request failed. So in this case, let's put a button which is going to prompt the user to get the position. Let's test this out. Firstly, it requests for the permission, and after we accept the permission, we can see that the map is displayed. But we don't have the path from our location to the location of our delivery. So let's go back to the map widget. So under the children, we'll add another widget which is called polylines. This draws lines on the map. We give it a stroke width of 2 and the color of black. So now we can see that our line has been placed on our map. So once we're done with this, we can go back to our other details screen and add the other informations that are required on the screen. The last set of widgets we'll need is related to the order summary. We'll look through each of the other items and put in the information we require for each of them. After the list of the other items, we also add the total price. Then finally we'll have the primary button, which will tell the user to order again. Once the user clicks on order again, we want to add all of these items into the bag. And after it is added to the bag, we show a message telling the user that the items have been added to the cart. So if we go to our bag, we can see that all the items that were in the order has been placed in the bag. Since we've completed all the widgets on our order details screen, we can go back to our order screen, and within the screen, we add our method to fetch all the orders from Firebase. Once we fetch our orders for this page, we need to add them to a variable. So we convert this from a stateless widget into a stateful widget using the options. And whenever this page loads, we want to fetch all the orders. So within the fetch orders, once it starts, we set the isLoading variable to true, and once it completes, we set it to false. But if we get any error while fetching the data from Firebase, we want to show the error to the user. So we'll use the scaffold messenger to display the message to the user. Let's also show a loading widget so that the user will know that we are getting the orders from the back end. We'll copy this list view and replace it with a list view that has a schema widget. Let's restart the application to see this in effect. To see the orders that were fetched from Firebase, we replace the list of orders with the data that we fetched from the backend. The last page we'll be working on is the profile screen. Since we don't have the authentication UI to continue with this design, we'll just prefill this page with static data. Let's move this widget into a method so that we'll use it multiple times on this page. and this completes the last part of our application. So as I said earlier, we're going to be building the dashboard screen next. This dashboard screen is going to allow the owner of this application to input some information directly from the dashboard. The admin dashboard will also help the owner of this application to manage orders that were placed in the application and update the delivery information for each of the order so that the user can come to this order page and track his order. So thanks for sticking around to this point. If you like the content, please subscribe, and I hope to see you in our next video when we start creating the dashboard for this food ordering application. So thank you and have a nice day.